So that being said, let's talk about another film which was established in the 80s but had just come back with a vengeance, so as to say. And let's go and talk about the main event of this podcast. Let's go on new Alien Covenant, one movie which I was like really excited for, and I was really dreading that, and I was hoping that I don't fuck it up. And Alien Covenant is directed, of course, by Ridley Scott and written by John Logan and Dante Harper. And it's based on a story by Michael Green and Jack Packlin. It's a sequel to the 2012 film Prometheus, which I absolutely love. And this film is the second installment of the Alien prequel series and a sixth installment overall in the Alien film series. And in fact, this is the third film which is directed of this series, which is directed by Ridley Scott himself. The film stars Michael Fassbender, Catherine Waterston, Billy Crudup, Danny McBride, and Damian Bashir. So I watched it yesterday and I was absolutely blown away by what Ridley Scott has actually come out and done. This, I think, is the worthy sequel to not just Prometheus. I think it's the worthy sequel to James Cameron's Aliens.
It's such a fantastic movie, isn't it? I'm not one of those on the Prometheus bandwagon. I hate that movie. It just certainly, as I said, it disappointed me because I went in expecting something. I certainly did not deliver on those front, and I was very disappointed. The fact that but what it showed that Ridley Scott had a certain vision in his mind. He wanted to go a certain way, and I think although the fact is that it took a lot of time for this sequel to come out, the fact that it got made and he made it in the manner of his vision that he had envisioned for the series itself, I think it speaks a lot of things. That which is like he actually knows what he's doing with the whole series. I think in that way I was very happy because he tied up the Alien Covenant movie not only to Prometheus very satisfyingly, but he also did it to the Alien movies. I think we saw a lot of finally we got to see not the Xenomorph but the early version of the Xenomorph. So which is what I actually went in to watch. I mean I'm a big Alien fan and I actually love the Xenomorph, and it's such a perfect villain in a lot of ways that I get goosebumps every time I watch this awesome creature, and that for me is what the Alien series had sort of grown to signify, and Alien Covenant certainly has wheated my appetite for the movie and the series in a big way. I think I'm very happy with the way it turned out. We had discussed about my apprehensions going into it. I was very excited, yet I was very apprehensive. So I was on the fence. I think it's safe to say that I'm over the fence with this one. I'm very happy with the way it turned out. And I hope that the next movie, which will take time because I'm not really sure whether this movie is going to be as financially successful as few of the other movies that Ridley Scott has made. But I'm hoping that it makes enough to warrant a sequel.
I agree with almost everything that you had to say regarding this, Anir. I would just like to add that I love Alien Covenant. It's probably my third favorite after Aliens and Alien. And like I did with Guardians of the Galaxy, being the fact remaining that I love this movie, I would like to point out some of the flaws that I had noticed. So I really did not like the fact that they did not use any practical effects for the xenomorph creatures. I mean, the first two movies, I think one of the best things that was going for the movie was the practical effects done by Stan Winston. Of course, he was working on H.R. Geiger's designs of the xenomorphs, and I was quite happy to see him credited as being the first credited person when the credits rolled. So that being said, I did not like the heavy use of CGI, though we had our apprehensions regarding this turning out to be another just action movie. I'm quite happy that it did not devolve into one like in the last till the last moment. Of course, even that, but that did not have as many explosions and all as I was fearing it would have, considering the trailer had so much explosions and all going off all over the world. It felt like a Star Trek episode to me, at least the first hour did, like a scary version. It was funny how laughably short James Franco's role was. He was there in the movie for like what, 2 minutes, I think, right? Only two scenes. Also, I think the end could have been done better. We saw life, of course, and what a way it ended. Like, just the way in which you could elevate a mediocre movie to a very good one. The Fassbender reveal could have been better done. I think, everyone saw it coming from a mile away, literally. So those are the few of my faults that I thought the movie had. What about you, Abhishek? I'll talk about some of the other points that I have later on.
One of my favorite scenes in this film, of course, I absolutely loved it. This is the second time, in fact, I've watched a aliens-related film in theater, the first being Prometheus, and I absolutely loved it. And I love the fact that I watched it alone. Like, literally, I was the only person in the theater when I watched this. And that is actually the way to watch if you are watching a sci-fi horror film. I would highly recommend that you check out the most obscure cinema hall that you have around you. If they're playing that movie, go and watch it, dude. Because you would really want to experience a film such as this, which is such a visual spectacle, and without being disturbed by the unending chatter which normally happens around you. Anyway, that being said, one of my favorite scenes is Walter and David, these two androids, when they talk about whatever they're trying to achieve. They talk about this their entire ideologies or their value sets when they discuss a poem. And that's obviously Ozymandias, and they actually talk about it while reciting the poem. This is in the second week running, in fact, that a completely different thing has been used as a reference to something else which is going on. Like, we had the same thing in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 as well, when Ego is talking about a song and is explaining his entire motivations through that song to his to Star-Lord. And here, you get completely David's ideas and David's mindset when he talks about Ozymandias to Walter. So I thought this scene was brilliantly done. Speaking about things which I really liked, I really loved the character designs. I mean, especially the new xenomorph which was introduced. In fact, the proto xenomorph. That was, I think, a brilliant design. It was a little bit, it looked a little bit spermy to me for some reason, but I thought it was a brilliant, adaptation of H.R. Geiger's work. And like I said, I completely marked out when I saw the first name in the credit was based on the character designs of H.R. Geiger. There was this huge smile on my face. And also, the smile, in fact, did not leave me as soon as I saw the opening credits and they had done it finally in the Alien style, right? You have these vertical letters and they turn into Alien, and then it's Alien Covenant. And as soon as I saw it, I took a picture and I mailed it. I mean, sent it to you guys. I absolutely loved it. And yes, let's start with you again, Arindam. Let's talk about the cast and the acting. What do you make of the cast? Because as we know, Ridley Scott, especially with the Alien movies, you have a blend of superstars, of name actors, and blended with great character actors. And this time, I thought the MVP of this entire film was Danny McBride, because I never really understood why Danny McBride was taken in this movie, and it just hits it out of the park.
The protagonist was fine. She wasn't, of course, Ripley territory, but she did a fine job. For me, the MVP has to be Michael Fassbender. Like, both the roles, he embodied it right from the first scene where he has that entire chat with Peter Wayland. I thought that set the tone for the movie just perfectly. I just loved Guy Pearce in Peter Wayland's role. He's such a good villain. And also Michael Fassbender, right from the scenes in which he's explaining how music works, when he explains the symphonies and how he does not have the codes written to create. That scene was like fascinating to me. Every time they were on, in whichever scene possible, Michael Fassbender threw himself out of the park. It was really well done. And also, I just can't wait to see how the synthetic xenomorph will be in the next movies. I think Ridley Scott has said that he plans to film the next movie within the next 14 months. So I'm really excited to see what he has in store for the sequel, because he has a story in mind. We saw from Prometheus, because Prometheus gave us half the story. And I think looking back at Prometheus now, we will have new light upon it. So I just can't wait to revisit it once more.
I'm very happy with the way that this movie ties in Prometheus, because for me that movie seemed like a very incomplete story, and it was because it is an incomplete story, and it's been tied in very nicely. I think a lot of credit has to go to Michael Fassbender for this. I think as both Walter and David, he does do a fantastic job. I'm also, like I'd mentioned, that Danny McBride was one of the castings which had left me shaking my head, and I'm very happy to report that he has actually knocked it out of the park. I agree with you completely when you say, Abhishek, that Danny McBride actually is one of the stars of the show. I think he does a fantastic job. I'm very happy with the way that the cast has acted. Again, Catherine Watterson, who plays the female protagonist, is certainly no Ripley, but then again, this is certainly no Aliens. This is a better sequel than Prometheus for me, but again, it's not Aliens. So I'll say that this is one for the books.
Prometheus gets a very bad rap because I think a lot of people like that's the same reason why people kind of shit on Rogue One as well. Because when you go to watch Rogue One, you're expecting Darth Vader, you're expecting a Star Wars film, but at the end of the day, it's a story which leads up to the greater thing. But I think for Prometheus, I guess everyone expected xenomorphs, and you did not get xenomorphs right at the end when you got the mother. But apart from that, you did not get xenomorphs. So I think that turned off the idea. But I absolutely love Prometheus. For the first time I watched it, I thought it was a very, very, very good science fiction film. I absolutely love Prometheus. And also, I think the character designs were actually very much in sync with what you saw in Aliens. That, of course, was Stan Winston doing it. But out here, it was not Stan Winston anymore. But what did you make of it? It was more CGI than practical effects. But I thought it held up pretty beautifully. What about you? Well, let's start with you, Arindam. I know you have a lot to say about the CGI aspect of it.
Right, the proto xenomorph, the white xenomorph. I think we've seen that in. If you read Batman versus Aliens, that white proto xenomorph is exactly what the Joker xenomorph is, except that it doesn't have a green head and red lips. It's that white xenomorph. We've seen it before. I quite liked it though, but there were some scenes in which they tried to humanize the xenomorph. I wasn't really a big fan of what was being done, but they handled it quite well, and they showed that they showed the motivation of David trying to create to be the creator, which was the ongoing narrative of the entire movie, right from Prometheus, like them questioning the being creators and questioning their creators. So I thought that gelled well with the theme, but it could have been better than, like I said, the ending. Felt a little off for me because it was too obvious. I think Life did a much, much better job in showing us that weird, fucked up ending, because we saw how well a twist ending can be. And this just didn't sit right with me because we just saw what was happening. Like for 10 minutes, we were anticipating, okay, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. In the end, I thought they were going to get a happy ending. But again, if we got a happy ending, we knew that whatever would happen henceforth with the other xenomorphs would not. So that was a bit weird for me. Also, where does Aliens vs Predator and all those movies sit? Because if those movies are to be believed, then thousands of years ago, the xenomorphs did exist.
It's non-canon. It's non-canon.
It is
Right.
non-canon.
It's not canon anymore.
It cannot be considered
Those
part
movies,
of any
yeah.
of those things.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid. Like, that is what I was thinking because, okay, it's like Star Wars again, long time ago, far, far away, but they have future tech. So this was like crazy fucked up to me when I was thinking about it. Obviously, it's non-canon now. So yeah, that's my thought on the ending. Do you think like the ending could have been, we saw how good Life's ending was. So did you guys like the ending?
See, I can't comment on the ending in the sense that Ridley Scott has come out and said he'll make 4 more Alien movies, or at least 4 more Prometheus movies. I'm not really sure as to he's going to say he's going to revisit this universe 4 times. So we're not really sure if he's going to make sequel to the Alien movies or sequels to the Prometheus movies. So maybe he'll give us 2 each. So we can't really comment on whether the ending made sense or not, because if you look at the Prometheus' ending, that also was not a very good ending. If you look at it just isolate, if you isolate that and look at that ending. But I thought for all intents and purposes, the ending was fine. Just fine. It was nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, you could see the twist coming from a mile away. Even halfway through the film, you could actually see that this was going to be the ending. And in fact, as soon as David comes on screen and you see Walter and David interacting, you could see where the story was going. So it would be a little remiss of us to comment on whether this is, or we understand the grand scheme of things from what Ridley Scott has in mind. So based on just this movie alone, the ending was fine. Yes, it could have been better, but I think we would have to reserve our judgments for how the story goes. because he has said that he'll come back and make 4 more Alien movies. So that being said, all I have to say is this movie was relentless. I think right after, I think since Aliens, James Cameron's Aliens, enough. Since that film, I don't think an Alien movie has been this breakneck when it comes to pacing. Not in one scene in this movie do you feel like you're taken out of the movie because of the overall plot, because it is a very complex story, but it's so beautifully told. The screenplay is so crisp that you are not taken out of this movie at any point of time. So that for just that reason, and for some misgivings like the ending and the lack of practical effects, I would give it a solid B plus. Let's start with you, Anirban. What is your rating, and how would you rate Alien Covenant?
I think it's a solid A for me. I think that's about as good as it gets, and I think it might get better with the next movies because he certainly has vision. But right now, I think it's a solid A.
It's a B plus for me as well. I really liked what was happening, and like Anir said, there's promise, and he has a specific vision on what he wants to do. I think that's why people didn't like Prometheus. It felt a little haphazard, but now with Covenant, he has a specific thing that he wants to do, and I'm quite looking forward to what he has in the future for Xenomorphs.